Hi, I'm Felicity, a registered nurse, cosmetic injector, and founder of the Fit Injector Clinic. Welcome to my channel and video podcast streaming on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Today is episode 18, and I have Jamal, director of Lulu Aesthetica and the Academy of Cosmetic Medicine and Science, joining me today. Welcome, Jamal.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm
Pleasure.
so grateful to be here.
Can't wait to get into it.
I know, me too.
Jamal, you're the director of Lulu Aesthetics and Academy of Cosmetic Medicine and Science. That's a lot. I love that.
Yeah.
You've got a lot on the go. So you're obviously a registered nurse, cosmetic injector, and director of both your clinic and your academy, which we're going to get stuck into today. And you are Sydney-based. Now, we met in what feels like a previous life. Kind of was a previous life, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I've really enjoyed watching your journey of becoming an injector and starting both your businesses. So today we're going to dive into how you became a cosmetic injector, starting your cosmetic clinic and your training academy, and where we think the industry is headed in 2024.
Amazing.
So tell us about you.
So my journey with aesthetics started from a young age. So I was always fascinated by it, right? So a lot of people don't pick that I suffered with severe cystic acne in high school. So I'm talking like you would look at me and go, that poor kid.
I'm looking at this glass skin.
So I kind of started learning a little bit back then, trying to do research on ingredients and kind of understanding bits and pieces there. Went to the dermatologist, jumped on the medication, and, my fascination didn't stop there. So then this journey started going forward, and I went into hairdressing. And hairdressing was fun, but it still didn't kind of scratch that itch. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Went into corporate, didn't like that either. Went into personal training. So I kind of had this little bit of a trend of taking care of people where it was about aesthetics. So hair, body. Then I hit my 30s and I was pushed by one of my closest friends and my mentors who, Ashka. And she's like, you need to do this. You've got this thing where you can kind of look at someone's face and pick these things. And I'm like, is it late to start? And she's like, no. She goes, do it. And then I will guide you on the rest of the journey.
She's amazing.
She is. She's beautiful. She's been doing it, I think, for about 15 or 16 years now. And she was kind of everything that I aspired to be in terms of a mentor. She was humble. She was kind, and she knew what she was talking about in terms of it wasn't this whole thing of you walking in and, us making our clients look glamorous or beautiful. It was kind of understanding this big thing, and this is a big thing in our industry, which is want versus need, right? Yeah. Where you'd look at someone's face and they're talking to you and you're examining all that dynamic and static movement, right? And she goes, you've got it. She goes, you can actually pick with a client when they're talking to you what their face needs after they say what they want. Do you know what I mean? So then went to university for 3 years, and I loved my degree so much. Like, I really did enjoy it. So a lot of people will kind of, there's a lot of positives and negatives in terms of being a new nurse going into the industry with not having that hospital experience. But it was quite, being mature in my age, in my 30s, and knowing what I wanted, and actually shadowing Ashka at the academy. So Ashka has owned the academy for over 10 years now. Amazing. So it started a while ago. So I would help out with the admin. I'd chime in, I'd listen, I'd watch. So that was kind of my leadway into thinking, great, I can do my nursing degree. I've got a bit of background information in my head in terms of anatomy, vasculature, how people age, just by watching and listening, and understanding that these are medical treatments. They're not beauty treatments, which is where I think some nurses will kind of say, oh, being a new injector in the industry coming straight from nursing is a negative thing. But in fact, it was quite positive for me. And here I am. I think I'm about 2 and a bit years, almost 3 years into my journey. Started off in a clinic, in one of the major chains, and decided that it was time for me to move on and do my own thing. There were a lot of things that I really enjoyed, and there were a lot of things that I kind of didn't. And I wanted to shape my clinic into something that was an amazing experience for clients, that was also ethical, where we have this big yes and no discussion with clients where we say, no, you don't actually need it. Whereas in some of the chain clinics, or my experience personally was, at the beginning of the day, we were told, this is how much we need to sell to a client.
Yeah.
Right?
No matter what.
Yeah, no matter what. I understand, they're a business, but that kind of went against my sort of ethical standpoints in this industry.
You feel like you couldn't be a nurse first.
Yeah, exactly right. So kind of really listening to that client, understanding what they wanted and what they needed, and also listening to things such as, budget. But that didn't align with me. So then I went off, started my own clinic. We're 15 months into Lulu Aesthetica.
Congratulations.
And thank you so much. And it's my biggest dream. And like, I live and breathe and eat aesthetics every single day. I really enjoy it. Not so much in terms of my passion comes first before what we're actually making, in terms of how much we earn. That was never ever my goal in terms of doing my nursing degree, where I went in head first thinking, this is, I'm going to make lots of money.
I'm going to sip lattes and make money.
Yeah. It wasn't that. I really had a love and a passion, and I really wanted to make a change in the industry where, people would come to me knowing that I'm educated, knowing that they're going to be comfortable and safe with me, knowing that I'll also say no to them as well, because I've had experiences, this is the lived experience as a consumer going to other injectable clinics where you'd go in this vulnerable state and say, this is what I need. And they're like, oh yeah, but you also need this. And it wouldn't even come up in discussion.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's it in your chair. So, all these life experiences that I've had, doing my degree as well and really enjoying my degree and, enjoying my clinical placement hours, and seeing what it was like as someone that hasn't been in the hospital system, how difficult it was and what I actually needed is what led us to kind of open up the clinic and also really advance our training school and our training offerings.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. I feel like you had such clear direction of what you wanted to do, and you have achieved so much in the past almost 3 years.
Yeah, thank you.
It's and I think it is really powerful. All those experiences that you had before have shaped what you're doing now. Yeah,
I definitely agree. Like, I do think that, look, some injectors or some people that do their nursing degree that are possibly a little bit younger, and this isn't to discriminate against them. No. I've met many younger injectors that come to my course that have done it and they're fresh out of uni, and I tell them, you need more time. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
It's just like some people have got it and some people don't. Some people have that clear direction. Yeah. They've got that sort of, maturity and experience, and some people don't. And that's not a bad thing either, because clinics need staff as well.
They do. Yeah, exactly right. So with that, in terms of new nurses getting into the industry, I know a lot of other people in the industry frown upon that, right? But like you said, sometimes you either have it or you don't. And I feel like for me, going into university, being a mature age student, I didn't want people to look at me in that way because, like you said, I had a clear direction. I've had this life experience. I knew what I wanted to do, and I was doing it for the right reasons in terms of wanting to better the industry, wanting to do what I love and what I'm passionate about, but also make sure that I'm doing right by continuously educating myself. Going to seminars, networking with other nurses as well, talking to other nurses about what's happening. That's a huge part of what has kind of led me here.
Totally. I feel like I see you everywhere.
Oh,
like
really?
Even, yesterday I'm just chilling at home with my daughter. Oh, yep, Jamal's out and about and learning more. You're at a pharmaceutical event for a new product that's coming to the market. And I see you popping up at all the events, and you're definitely immersing yourself in it.
Yeah.
And I think that really speaks to that whole thing of, if you've got that clear direction and okay, I'm a new injector, but I've got to do all of these things to support myself, as opposed to, and I don't want to say this in a negative light, but as opposed to someone who thinks they can do a 2-day course, open a business, but not do anything else and just expect to make money from there.
Yeah.
And expect, clients to take you seriously and, all of that. You have to work so hard.
Yes.
And it never stops.
It doesn't know. Like, so one of the questions that I say, not one of the questions, but one of the things I tell my students is when they have this idea that they're going to go open up this clinic, make lots of money and do all their treatments, I say, you've got to walk before you run. You always have to walk before you run.
Yeah.
You've got to take your time. You've actually got to go in and experience working for a clinic and seeing how the business runs, how you interact with clients, and really fine-tune those things before you actually open up. So for me, even though it was a short period, I'm going to be transparent with everyone. I was only with the clinic for about 6 or 7 months. And look, it was an amazing learning experience in terms of what I got out of it. But at the same time, like we discussed, in terms of this whole pressure of selling, even though we kind of, say to our clients, you may not need this, and they walk out not spending anything, but then the pressure was on me, So going through that whole experience, seeing how a business runs, fine-tuning my consulting skills as well with my clients as well, getting more hands-on experience as well, starting off with the basics, again, walking before you run with like some basic indications before you kind of move up is what's going to set you up for success in the industry and make you a better injector and a better clinic owner as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about your decision to get involved in the training academy.
So like I said before, Ashka's had this academy for over 10 years now, and I used to help out with admin. And she was the one that actually said to me, she's like, come and do a training day. And I'm like, what do you mean come and do a training day? She goes, I'm confident in you with the indications that we're going to teach because you have shadowed me, you have spent time at the academy, and you know how to do them and do them well. Come teach. I'm like, oh, okay, all right.
Sure.
So she kind of threw me into the deep end. And one of my things in life that I always believe in was just say yes. Even if the nerves are there, just say yes. And if you're really not confident or really not sure, that's when you say no. But I was like, I do know how to do these things. I know how to explain them. I know all about anatomy and vasculature, and I know how to assess clients quite well. Yes. So I did my first training academy with Ashka, trained, really loved it, got a real rush out of it, got a real sense of joy from teaching these new students and people that want to get into the industry what I didn't have, so did that and walked away with the biggest high. And Ashka said to me, she goes, I think we should join forces.
Yeah.
I go, what do you mean join forces? She goes, I want you to come in and I want you to help me shape this academy into something that hasn't been seen before. Because there are other training academies out there, but big difference with us of what we do is, one, we run it in a real clinical environment. We run it in our clinic, so it feels like you're actually working in a clinic. People come in for their appointed time. We go through the proper consent forms and the consultation with them. Then we go and proceed and inject.
Yeah,
so
rather than being in a conference room or...
Correct.
Yeah.
So that was a big difference with us. The other big difference as well is premium product. So we partnered with some amazing companies and amazing brands that really do support us. So that way students can get a better feel of product. So we don't tend to skimp out there. Even our consumables that we use premium consumables as well. So that was a really big thing. And so Ashka told me, she goes, I need you to shape up a few things. I'm like, right. Because I do also come from a bit of a business background.
Yeah.
I'm like, what can we do to make this academy better? Not just so much to bring nurses in, but what can we do that's going to make it more appealing to people that want to get into the industry? What's going to make us stand out?
Yeah.
Right? So again, clinic premises, premium product. We also supply a large amount of models. Our last workshop, we had 60 hands-on models over 3 days.
It's crazy.
It is. So small intimate group environment as well. So that way you can learn by watching, but also learn by doing hands-on training.
None of this do half a face and off you go.
Yeah. So
which unfortunately I do hear from some people that I mentor that they got to do, half a face for anti-wrinkle or half a lip and then...
Yeah. So the way that we kind of work in the room when we're working with the nurses is we ask them, we go, all right, we're working in a team environment. Treat yourself as if you are in a clinical environment, respect each other, and just make sure that we're working together towards a common goal. So people will do a frontalis and I'm like, who's done a frontalis? Yep, me. Okay, cool. Next person, we need to get your hands on. Who feels like they're okay with it? I'm good with it. Do you know what I mean? Like we get such amazing people coming into our workshops to do the course, and they're so kind and nice to each other. It's such a nice, like that sense of community that we have with each other in the industry already. Yeah. Like I want to build that experience up for them. So in terms of our course offerings, what we do a little bit differently, like we said, so we provide a huge amount of models for our students to practice on. We also do a 3-day course. So your first day is anti-wrinkle. So we do focus on the main indication, so your glabella, your frontalis, and your crow's orbicularis oculi. But we also do get requests from some of the models that are comfortable for our students to practice on. Because the thing is, right, when you do go into a new clinic, they do want you to practice on some, let's say, intermediate indications, such as a lip flip or your mentalis or your masseters, right? If a model does request that, even though this is an introductory course, we will say yes and we will demonstrate, right? And we will get our students to at least get a feel of it. because the whole thing with this course is it's your introductory, your basic course in terms of what you'll be expected to know and do when you join a clinic or one of the major chain clinics. So your 3 areas of anti-wrinkle, lips with the needle, cheek, needle to bone as well, sometimes chin as well, and sometimes marionette. So we try to go for more those low risk areas. If it's more advanced, we don't teach it, you know, so such as temples, tear trough, jawline. Like we really want to just set that foundation for the nurses. So when they apply for a chain clinic, then they walk straight in and they go, I've got some idea how to do this, but they're not going to be 100% confident. Let's be real. And that's what I say to the students that come and do our course is that you will be expected to understand your anatomy, understand what you're doing, why, and have a clear picture of your anatomy in your head when that needle plunges into their face and having a rationale behind everything you do. So that's it for the basic course offerings. We will hopefully be launching some masterclasses for some nurses that are already in the industry that want to fine-tune their skills. Right. So like I said, I brought up Ashka a few times, but she is a bit of a queen in our industry. She's amazing at what she does. She came from a background of forensics. So I'm not sure if you knew that.
I didn't know that.
So she came from a background of forensics, forensic science, and she needed a change. So in terms of anatomy, she knows everything from the back of her hand.
That was my first thought, anatomy.
Yeah, anatomy, which is, incredible that she knows that.
I met Ashka so long ago when I was working for a clinic, and she came in and she was doing a training day, and she started talking about her clinic at the time. And to me, as this little baby injector, I just like looked up at her and I was just like, she's goals. That's the dream.
Exactly.
She's talking about owning this clinic, and then she goes out and trains and all of these things. And then it's just interesting all these years later, and she's doing the academy with you. And so I've really enjoyed watching her over all these years.
Yeah, she's honestly, so like I know I'm putting her on this high pedestal, but in terms of what I've aspired to be, you should always be authentic to yourself and have your own spin on things. But just in terms of how genuine she is, in terms of how much she loves to nurture other students in the industry, including myself, right? And just her knowledge, like this wealth of knowledge where she'll just pick up these amazing things, and just watching her inject and handle her needle and cannula for an injector, right, is mesmerizing. Like you get it, right? When you watch someone and they're just doing their work. So it's super mesmerizing. So going back, we'll talk about like course offerings. So masterclasses for existing nurses. So
that's to come.
That's to come, yeah. So we're in the process of working on that at the moment. There are a few indications that nurses have been asking us for, and we're listening. So we're looking at a lip masterclass with a dental block. So that's a big one that we've gotten a lot of requests for that we want to teach, because even though lips are one of the first things that you learn, they're an art. They're such an art. They're probably one of the hardest things to treat.
They are.
Yeah. So,
and even to this day, you'll be the same. Sometimes you get a set of lips in front of you. You go, yeah, they're going to be challenging.
Exactly right. So that's one of the course offerings as well. We are looking at possibly PDO or lifting thread masterclass as well. Look, they're an amazing product. I do love them, but I tend to do a lot more anti-wrinkle, dermal filler, skin boosters, PRP in the clinic. We are looking at maybe possibly like a lower face for men and women. So masculinizing men and also feminizing women, because they're quite different in terms of how we inject.
Do you have any prerequisites for nurses coming into your course?
Yes. So look, we are changing things, and it's more in line with APRA guidelines and what clinics want. So when nurses do come to us with no hospital experience, we do let them know that it's going to be a lot harder for them to get in.
Yeah.
It's being honest, because we're not there to take their money and do the course and let them roll with it. Okay. So we want nurses with minimum 12 months of clinical experience, not for the sake that we don't want them, but we can't have them just because, like I said, you're investing all this money into the course that we're going to do, and they are expecting to go and apply for work and at least get in. Yeah. But we've just found with nurses that don't have clinical experience, unfortunately, find it a lot harder. They can get work, but they do have to kind of work that extra little bit harder.
Yeah. And APRA have it seems will soon implement that rule where they do need to have that 1 year experience to go into a clinic.
I have a feeling with that as well that Apple will kind of bring that up. But that's basically it. Having 12 months of experience with nursing is basically the only prerequisite that we really need, you know? That's basically it.
Hope you're enjoying this podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by the Fit Injector Clinic Mentoring Program, business mentoring for cosmetic nurse injectors. If you are a registered nurse who wants to become a cosmetic injector or an existing cosmetic injector who wants to start their own business or scale up your existing business, I have just launched an online version of my mentoring program with video modules for you to work through in your own time, downloadable information for you to keep, and a strategy call once you've completed that with me for 30 minutes to answer any questions that you have about starting or scaling up your business. If you want to get started, email me at admin@thefitinjector.com.au.
So onto your clinic and your business now. And I think the thing I really wanted to talk to you about was your most recent device investment and the importance of the skin side of an injectables clinic.
So skin, like I said to you back on my journey, skin was my thing first before anything, right? And I think we need to have a good understanding of skin. So when we first started off with our clinic, we didn't start off with any devices. We started off with the treatments that we knew that we were good at and also your basics of skincare. So we stock in 2 brands. I stock in Dr. Natasha Cook, who I love and adore, and I love what she believes in, and also Synergy Skin. So both Australian brands, both backed by science, which was really important to me, and in terms of targeting our clientele. To kind of, give back as well. So we started off with those 2 ranges. Synergy Skin has a back bar range. So we started off with some basic chemical peels as well, which are excellent, by the way. And we just recently purchased our first device from Cryomed, which is a Secret RF Duo. I know, honestly, it's such a big achievement when you purchase your first device in clinic. It's incredible. So we started off with the Secret RF Duo. We just kind of looked at our demographic and what our clients were after. So they were after something for skin texture, tightening, firming, collagen production, low downtime as well. And the amazing thing about this device versus other RF devices is that, one, you get your radio frequency microneedling device in terms of penetration depth as well. It's still at a safe depth. There's a lot of controversy with radio frequency microneedling. It's happening at the moment. It's coming up on my TikTok feed a lot. I don't know. Have you seen much of it?
I've seen a little bit. Actually, my first sort of interaction with it the other day was a patient who had had a few treatments with me with RF and then came in for another treatment and said, I've been doing this late night Googling.
Yes.
And so then I had to quickly do a bit of Googling and see this. And obviously our device is within a very safe depth. But it seems to be sort of gaining a little bit of traction at the moment.
It is both positive and negative. Positive in the sense that we've got this treatment that does help with skin laxity. It's a bit of a all-rounder. So when clients come into our clinic, I want treatments that are a little bit more bang for your buck. All right.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of target a few different skin concerns, and I thought this is the perfect device. So radio frequency microneedling for your skin tightening, skin laxity, crepey skin, under eyes, and also those wrinkles that we can't target with anti-wrinkle that are static there, that are just sitting there. So that was really important. But also the other really amazing thing about this device is having the glass erbium laser. So 1540 glass erbium laser, where you can either do as a combo treatment or as a standalone treatment with little to no downtime at all. And that just helps with more collagen production, draws water or moisture to the surface. So it's incredible. But we're absolutely loving it. We've had it for less than a month. We've already done about 30 treatments in clinic.
Your before and afters are looking amazing.
I'm stoked. It's a big thing for us. So I go through a bit of a protocol with our clients in clinic where they've had the treatment done. I get them to DM me with a photo at night, and we check in with them the next day just to make sure that they're okay. But the downtime has been minimal. They walk out with sunburn.
Yeah.
By the nighttime, they're a little bit pink. The next day, they're glowing.
Great.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And I think these days people don't really have the time for downtime. Mm-hmm. So when you can get your hands on a device that gives you incredible results with minimal downtime, they're just going to love it, aren't they?
Yeah, well, you kind of got to think about putting yourself in the patient's shoes. And that's where I always go back to when I was a consumer in the industry, even visiting you, remember, back at your old clinic. Like I want to experience these things and know that, I'm giving what the clients want and need. You've got to be realistic as well with your expectations of treatments, with your downtime, and discomfort as well. But for a first device, I honestly couldn't be happier. Yeah.
So for this year, what events and conferences do you have on your list?
So NSS is a big one that I would recommend to everyone. It's incredible. It's 3 days of learning. And the good thing about it is you can jump in and out of rooms depending on what you want, what your flavor is. So depending on the brand that you work with, depending on what you want to learn as well. There's also hands-on workshops during the event. You can speak to the device companies and also the distributors of all the products. I think that's the major one that I'll be going to this year. It's kind of circling back to education. It's amazing for education. So I went last year and really took away a lot. A lot about what the trends are in the industry at the moment. Different products as well. Spoke to a lot of the different representatives in terms of skincare, devices, and your other injectable products as well that we won't mention. So NSS is a really big one. Other events as well. I haven't actually looked at too many this year, but NSS is definitely one of the ones that I tend to go to. I'll go to other smaller events if there's any sort of product launches.
One day, things here and there.
One day. But after NSS, I'm a little bit conferenced out because it's quite intense.
And it's quite long. And it is hard to commit sort of back to back to these conferences that do go for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
So personally, I like to try and do like one big one a year and then do lots of small ones around that because it is, it's time out of your clinic.
Yeah. Are there any that you'd recommend or that you like?
So I'm tossing up this year between the NSS. I feel like you've talked me into that off air. And then I haven't been to the Aesthetics, the Stephen Liu, so Aesthetics 2024.
Neither have I, actually.
So maybe that one. We'll see.
Okay.
See how things go.
Amazing.
Let's go to the questions from Instagram.
Okay, great.
So question 1 is, what is the best advice that you have for a new cosmetic nurse starting out? I feel like you have really touched on this already.
I have, but let's just go through it in a bit of a summary. So first thing would be to make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons, right? Making sure that your focus is doing it for the love of aesthetics, not doing it for income. Look, money makes life easier. I get that. I understand that. But if your first goal with any career, not even just aesthetics, is to go into it and to think that you're going to make a lot of money, you shouldn't be doing it for that purpose, right? So first thing is that. So second thing would be to find yourself a mentor that you can bounce off, that you can shadow, that you can ask questions. But something that I want to touch on with you is to make sure that you're being respectful of their time.
Yes.
And all the years that they've been doing this. So we spoke about this briefly before, making sure that you do not expect it for free.
Totally.
Yeah. It's a big thing where I have nurses or I have friends that need to learn to separate between what is business and what is a friendship. That
100%.
People shouldn't be expecting you to do this for free. And you should be wanting to actually say to them, how much is it going to cost me? Because the thing is, with nurses, so let's say, for example, Ashka, for example, she's been doing this for so long. She's done the hard yards. She probably didn't have anyone to support her back in the day when she did start on her career of injecting, right? She has done so many hours of education. She's trained so many people that you want to make sure that you're respecting their time.
Absolutely.
So that would be the second thing, your mentor. Third thing would be to expose yourself to a clinic environment. So making sure that you, again, walk before you run, go and join a chain clinic or go work for someone that knows that you're new, that will nurture you. Look, unfortunately, with my experience with one of the chains, I didn't feel like I got that much support and training and education. So making sure that you say to them that you want this and you want to be the best at your craft and you need that education and support is a big thing. So I did have a good experience, don't get me wrong, but I wish I got a little bit more out of it, right? So working for a chain clinic and really fine-tuning those skills. Also practicing, like even practicing with friends and family, your consulting skills. Consulting is one of the biggest things in terms of what makes you a better injector, what makes you a more ethical injector, and not being a yes person.
Yes.
So I find consulting is actually more important than sometimes your injecting skill at times, right? And that takes time to develop. And some people either have it or they don't in the beginning, but you can fine tune it.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? But bringing in all those things by understanding your anatomy, you can go to a lot of courses and, you know, study anatomy, but you need to put in that hard work outside as well. Yeah. Watching videos, sit down, watch on YouTube videos about anatomy, taking a look at different applications on your phone as well in your spare time, because all of this isn't going to be handed to you. You need to put in that education or that self-learning outside of work as well to kind of make yourself better.
And it's such a skill to sit there and have a face in front of you that you've never been able to assess before or seen a photo of, and they're telling you what they want.
Yes.
And you're looking at what they need, but you're also assessing the face moving and still, and you've got to be really quick on your feet because they're looking at you wanting an answer and wanting a treatment plan. It is such a skill to fine tune that and be able to do that quite quickly when that new patient's right in front of you.
Yeah, exactly right. And making sure that you're not using a cookie cutter approach.
Yeah.
So like we said, with lips, they are a craft. When we're working on someone's face, it is a craft. It is an artistry. Again, medical, I'm not trying to glamorize this by any means, but it is an art to kind of look at someone's face and look at what their face needs and understanding different ethnic backgrounds and different beauty standards as well, and making sure that we're really customizing that to the client, you know, with a lot of our own beliefs. So that's another really important point.
And listening to what they've had before, especially with lips, you know, they might be telling you they've had experiences of migration or lumps and bumps and, you know, different things. Like I always say, what do you like and dislike about your lips if they've had them previously? And then that gives you so much information on which product you're going to use and how you're going to inject that to try and avoid those things for them in the future.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So those would be the main take-home points. The other thing would be to, you know, obviously do a course as well.
Yeah.
Making sure you have realistic expectations about what you're going to get out of this course, right? The course, Ashka says this a lot, is the tip of the iceberg. You're only just scratching the surface to get the basic understanding. It's like going to uni and becoming a nurse. You learn all this amazing stuff. You step into the hospital system and you feel like you're learning again, right?
Baby. Yeah.
Like even though, like I said, I've done my clinical hours in the hospital, I haven't worked in it, but when I was hands-on in the hospital, that's where I understood things. And the same goes for when you're working in the aesthetic industry, is to make sure that you do a course, you understand that's not going to give you everything, but it's going to give you the foundations of basically setting yourself up for success for when you do go in and you work for someone, because you will get all that additional training from the product companies as well.
Yeah. And depending on who you're working with, you know, obviously at chain clinics, you are going to get a lot of that training with pharmaceutical companies. At private clinics, you're going to get that. Plus, you're also going to get to work alongside, you know, the business owner or the nurse manager or whoever their most experienced nurse is as well. And I really like what you said before about that your beginner training, it's what you need to go and get a job at a clinic. It's not, you don't stop there.
Yeah. Exactly right. And the last thing as well to kind of get into the industry is, and this is a big thing that I've learned, is to remain humble.
Yeah.
So when I say remain humble, we do not know everything. And even now, I still don't know everything and I never will. Yeah. And to be receptive to constructive criticism, to be receptive to other people saying, try this and not get offended, you know, it's a big part. So that would be my new advice for new
And
injectors.
don't be afraid to, I'm going to add to that, don't be afraid to make friends and network. You know, there's more than enough business to go around. And you know, as injectors, we are all so different and we offer different things. And, you know, you don't need to sort of like hide in your corner and not talk to anyone because they're going to steal your patients. It's not the case. You know, you can progress yourself by really getting out there and meeting people and finding other people to support you on your journey.
I definitely agree with that. In terms of connecting with other nurses and networking, these events that you can go to are incredible for that. And we should have this sense of community. Some nurses will compete. Let's not deny that.
Totally.
But a lot of it is building each other up, asking them if they need help when need be, and just really supporting each other. Like I've spoken to a few nurses now that are asking for my opinion on certain products that I stock in. How is it going? How did I choose it? Do you know what I mean? So it's good karma. Like you give good,
really
you get good back. I honestly believe in it, like being in this industry for such a short time, that it has given me so much growth by showing kindness to others when I didn't have it, or I'm empathic to others that have just started out, and I try to help out where I can. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
It's really important.
It is.
Well said.
Yeah.
Next question is, do you recommend to work for a clinic first or open my own business first? Pros and cons.
Okay. So definitely work for someone else first. Again, you've got to really understand how the business operates. It's not just you injecting, it's you setting up all your booking software and making sure that the client has an amazing experience going through, setting up all your policies, making sure that your social media is all set up. Changes are coming, we know that, but just there are all these different things that you need to do, because if you're expecting clients to come swarming through the door, you're mistaken.
Yeah.
So with our clinic, it took 15 months to build up a database of 900 clients.
Yeah.
It took a lot of work, a lot of networking. So for me, and I'll be honest, it was a little bit difficult in the beginning, only working for a clinic for a short time. I wish I did stay a little bit longer, but for me, I wasn't feeling like I was getting that growth, and it was kind of going against some of my morals with the whole idea of selling or overselling to people, which I don't do in my clinic. I'm quite honest, and I turn away a lot of people.
I always say I spend half my day saying no.
Yeah, so do I, right? I say no a lot.
But then you get those loyal clients, right? Because they come back the next time and they go, I actually really appreciate, they've gone home, had another look in the mirror and say, I really appreciate that you said no to that particular treatment.
Yeah, exactly right. Like I had a client come in the other day and we had a full facial assessment. We consulted her and she said she wanted X, Y, and Z done. Her chin, her lips, and anti-wrinkle. But she was quite anxious. So I always go back to a little bit of the BDD assessment and really making sure that I'm caring for my client. She was comfortable with having their lips done and anti-wrinkle. So we did that. She really wanted the chin, and I actually said no to her.
Yeah.
I said, just wait, think about it, leave it for 2 weeks.
We can do it.
We can always do it later.
Yeah.
It's harder for us to actually go in, dissolve. Not that it's difficult, but in terms of the process, do you know what I mean?
It's more injecting, it's more downtime, it's
exactly right. So definitely work for a clinic. Definitely first. If you do have good support behind you to open up a clinic, you can, but I honestly think it's a little bit unrealistic. There's a lot that you need to learn from other people before you go ahead and start your own business, because people think that it's all fun and games, but when you're up at night answering clients, working on your socials, working on your business planning, it's tiring. You don't stop work when you leave the clinic. It doesn't ever stop.
It never stops.
No, it doesn't.
And we were talking before we started, obviously, the pros and cons. And I worked for clinics for 6 years before I went out on my own. But these days I do mentor other people. Some have worked for clinics and they're opening their own businesses, but some are new. And, the ones I work with who I think, they've got it, are the ones who, like we started talking about, have all that life experience. They've got that clear direction. They've usually got that sort of, maturity around working and things like that. And they say to me, right, they've got this whole list of training and mentoring and all these different things that they're doing, and they do it and they succeed.
Yes.
But I do also speak with people who I think, you know what, you probably just need to go and work for a clinic either first, or maybe just stay with a clinic, because, they may be really fresh out of nursing and really didn't have a clear goal of what they wanted to do. And sometimes, like you said before, are more sort of financially incentivized by it. And, you have to say, look, this is so much work. So there's definitely pros and cons. And like we keep saying, is some people have got it and some people don't.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that.
And there's nothing wrong with either side of that.
No, there isn't. So like I said, I'm talking about it from my own experience, jumping straight into it. But I'll touch on what you just said. It's a maturity thing. It's not about your age.
No.
It's a maturity thing. Do you know what I mean? So I spend a lot of time on TikTok, on socials, and I listen to some of these nurses talking about certain things and are making it sound a lot more fun than what it is. Like, we take our jobs very seriously. I always think medical before beauty, and always think about risk before reward as well with clients. So definitely work for someone first. Some people do walk through our doors and they are ready. Like, I can quiz them on anatomy, vasculature, rationale behind injecting, and I'm shocked.
Yeah.
Like, I'm shocked that some of these people go in and I'm like, I would trust you with my face to do my face. So look, there's pros and cons with both sides. Like you said, you mentor people. But yeah, I honestly recommend, and even from my experience, just going and working for someone for a bit, finding that mentor as well is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. When is your next academy intake?
So our next academy intake, we're fully booked for February. Our next intake will be May. So the reason why we tend to do it quarterly is we use the same models. So by the time, that their anti-wrinkle wears off, they're ready.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you've got this nice database of models.
We've got about 700 models that we use.
Wow.
So Ashka's built that up over many years, but we tend to do that quarterly. The masterclasses, we're still trying to work that out because, like we said, we want to give a good experience to our nurses coming in, but also to the models. So we're trying to fine tune that, possibly do that monthly because that's a little bit more specialized. It's less intense. It's not going to be 3 days.
Yeah.
Or probably be a day of injecting. But yeah, I think it will be May for the next workshop.
Fantastic. And the last question I've got here is, as there are many training providers available, what do you recommend to look for when making a choice on one? And this is a question I get all the time when I mentor nurses.
So the big thing that I say to them is look at, first of all, where they're holding their training. Is it in a real clinical environment or is it in an office? That's a big thing. I've heard from other injectors that have gone to courses where they feel a little bit let down where it's set up in an office on these beds that aren't really ergonomic or aren't comfortable. So making sure that you're asking them, what product are they using? Are they using premium product or are they using something a little bit cheaper? Asking for the location, asking what's involved as well. Is this going to be 2 days of theory and then 1 day of hands-on, or is it going to be 3 days of hands-on? So the difference with us is we do self-paced learning where we send you an information pack. You take your time. We run through some quizzes as well. But those 3 days are your time to actually spend hands-on, back-to-back injecting, because we want people, or we want students to feel after they've done so many glabellas or so many crows that they feel actually sick of it.
Yeah.
But the reason why is we want them to actually understand how different it is treating each patient, that there is no cookie cutter approach with a standard dose in the glabella or a standard dose in the crows, and understanding your anatomy and understanding what shelving is and understanding what, like, all these different things. So making sure you ask that as well. So the other thing as well is in terms of the certification between diplomas and certificates. There's no real, official certification for cosmetic injectors. It's a bit of a gray area, which is what I want to do to kind of shape this. Do you know what I mean? Even though we do offer a certificate of cosmetic injecting, I want them to feel confident and comfortable enough that they're not just coming in, doing and leaving. Yeah. I want them to make sure that they're understanding all the importance of vasculature, anatomy. Huge thing. Before you're injecting, you should be knowing this anyway. Understanding realistic expectations of the course. Once you do our course, we don't find you work. It's the same thing as going to university or doing a TAFE course. You need to make sure, right. You need to make sure that you're putting in the hard yards. So to give you a statistic, I actually ran a quick report and spoke to a lot of my students that have done the course and asked them, how many of you have actually gotten a job just by applying and doing our course? And 90% of them did.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's great. And look, we do give them references as well. Great. And we do give them guidance in terms of where they should start, who should they apply with, what they should look for when applying as well, what questions to ask. But ultimately, you need to want it to be able to get a job. And for those ones that put in the work, apply, they get knocked back. It's like applying for any job.
Yeah.
But they've all really succeeded, and I've seen them grow, which has been incredible.
That's
and I keep in touch with them. Thank you. Yeah. And I've kept in touch with some students. Like, I've got some amazing star students that I watch all the time, and I comment on their posts and I'm like, this is incredible. Like, can you show me how to do it? Do you know what I mean? So that's another thing that I would kind of look at when choosing your training organization. Yeah. So product, location, how many models you're going to get hands-on experience with as well, and what you're going to get out of the course.
Yeah, that's a really great answer.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 18 of this video podcast series. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. A huge thank you to Jamal for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having
fab.
me.
Thanks for the chat.
Thank you. Lovely seeing you.